25, which is item of the Hagley Ferrymead Community Board, and we'll invite Sarah and Alex. How about we just do this item of yours, guys, and then we'll come back to the others. Yep.
Yeah, I think Alex is going to talk to this one.
Okay.
I just want to thank everybody for the deputations this morning outlining issues associated with the consumption and the location and proliferation of fast food outlets, not only in Linwood but throughout the city. As a board, we fully support the points that have been made here today and the concerns. We had a recommendation to put to council but felt it was overly broad. We understand it is hard to define low socioeconomic areas and the term fast food, but as Tim has said, there is research that has been done overseas that we would request staff to look into for more information. Just one point I'd like to reiterate is the fact that it is 5 times more likely for fast food joints to be put around schools. And with that being said, staff have helped us put together a more targeted recommendation, and that is that the council requests staff to report back as soon as practicable on options available to it and central government to limit the location and impacts or prevent the establishment of fast food outlets in close proximity to schools or other sensitive areas in local communities. Thanks.
Thank you, and that's obviously got the support of the entire community board. Okay.
Well, there's only 4 of us here today.
So sorry, just a point of clarification in terms of process. I believe that the board can't make a revised recommendation unless as a formal board meeting, but certainly the council can, when we move it. So Paul and I can move the amendment.
So the recommendation from the community board remains as it was, but what you're suggesting as a possible way forward is that the council adopts this recommendation.
That's
right. Thank you for that help. Yep. Is there any questions of Sarah or Alex?
Just that I'm assuming that in terms of what your suggestion, that in fact around, which basically is around the issue of fast food in schools, that you'd also support council exploring the issue of fast food or unhealthy food in a wider basis as well.
Absolutely.
You would. Yep.
You want to add that to the recommendation?
I think there should be a way of including the other issues in the recommendation. Yeah.
Given that this can't come as a community board recommendation without the community board meeting, this is going to have to be a council recommendation anyway. So if you want to prepare a minor change to it, we'll come back to it.
I will in conjunction with the
Pauline and
Linwood
then
councillors.
I was actually going to just question the wording there in the last line, in close proximity to schools or other sensitive areas. So sensitive is not really qualified, and I wondered if we could use the word out of the Health Act and say, or any other areas where they would cause nuisance.
Okay.
Now, because nuisance has got quite a few definitions in here, and it might cover what...
So can we work out what the resolution is going to be? I'm assuming that people are generally happy with what Pauline's suggesting there.
I think it's
sensitive areas, we were looking at things potentially like health centres and things as well. And I'm not quite sure.
But that word nuisance would cover that. Because
so Pauline, your suggestion would be that at the end of it, it says in close proximity to schools or...
any other areas where they would cause nuisance.
Put a reference to the Health Act so that that's qualified.
As per the Health Act 1956. Yeah.
So that would cover everything.
It's an interesting nuisance. Sorry, I'm just waiting for Jared or Dick to jump up. And the reference in the Health Act, do you have it?
This is in reference to the New Zealand legislation, Health Act 1956. It's part 2.
Okay, and just
23.
If you could put in the brackets at the end of nuisance in local communities, brackets, reference as defined in the Health Act
1956.
1956.
Part 2.
Part 2.
Number 23.
Thank you. 1923.
just want to make sure.
Yep, sure.
Nuisance in the Health Act has got quite a limited definition, so I think you're actually making it narrow.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. Okay, you've just been overruled, Pauline.
So what would you prefer, because sensitive didn't mean anything to me really.
District plan
I think it
applications.
So
I agree.
maybe another word,
Just, it would be quite good to be able to ask staff questions before we
Yes.
come up with recommendations.
no
I
problem.
appreciate this is revised, but
No problem.
I mean, I'd like to kind of hear staff's response to the deputations that were made this morning in terms
Okay.
of what possible ways forward there are.
Okay. Is it Helen who's answering any of the questions?
Or Vivian.
Okay, tell us what the question is, Yanni, and we'll deal with the questions first.
Others have questions as
So
well.
if I can just
so
say
I'm
that
happy to wait my
nuisance
turn,
did
but-
cover obesity and smell. Those
Okay.
were two things that
Okay.
came out.
Do you guys want to come to the... Is there anything else that you guys want to say?
Not in relation to this one.
Okay,
So-
thanks, guys. What we'll do is bring some stuff down here. And we'll just deal with questions first, if that's okay, and then we'll clarify the resolution. Okay? So the first question is the wording you're suggesting, Vivian, that it stays as the wording that the community board people had.
Well, I think if you tag it to nuisance in the Health Act, it's quite a limited
Okay.
definition, but if you just said nuisance and not refer to the Health Act, that's potentially
Okay,
better.
right. So
Okay.
if we just take out as defined in the Health Act, the put in the brackets, we good with that? You good with that, Vivian?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Any other questions of these guys? I'll let Yanni go first and then Glenn and then Lou.
Thank you. It's a little bit
me,
difficult
please.
because the people that made the deputation today haven't seen the memo that came around to us, which has got some, sensitive information in it. So I just, in terms of what you've heard today, and I know we've kind of had some advice at the board, but if we wanted to do something about this problem, if we agree that it's a problem, what are the ways in which you think we could address this?
Well, I think one of the things in terms of stepping back from this specific request and the exploration of regulatory options, we could also look at the champion approach, so that the City Council champions healthy food across its city and the community. And the District Health Board is also looking at this at the moment, so we could do a combined piece of work with the District Health Board and have a healthy food policy across the city. And that would come through in council facilities, at council-sponsored events and similar sort of things.
So do you think there's a need for us to get another report to come back with some kind of key decisions to be made around this issue, like going through a district plan change, going through the health
Isn't that
acts?
what that is?
I'm asking staff.
Yeah, I know, well, I'm asking, isn't that what that
Well, point of order,
No,
I would
no,
like
no,
an
it's
answer to
fine.
the question from the staff
So
too.
I just like, for me, like there's a number of things that we could do. District plan change, national policy statement by government on obesity, including regulation of fast food outlets, and Health Act bylaw or Local Government Act bylaw. But I guess what I'm trying to understand, is this resolution specific enough? And is there anything that, we should be specific around doing in the short term to give you a steer?
I think the resolution is broad enough to investigate all of those things. In terms of investigating and putting together an approach under the district plan or under the bylaw making powers, we would come back to council on that with an indication of costs, because that's not a trivial exercise.
Okay.
So when can we get that back as well?
Well, just wait a minute. Would it be sensible to add the champion type
I'd like
approach?
to add that. I like that.
Okay, so if somebody, maybe you, Vivian, works up the wording for and looks also at the champion approach.
And it's also around developing a healthy food policy too, was the reference.
As
So I was just trying to understand
Yeah.
what we can do now, so I'm happy for that to be added, but I want to know, could we write to the government now, for example, asking for a national policy statement on obesity, including regulation of
Yanni, I
fast
think
food
what they're
as well?
saying is that they're going to come back with all of the options, and having come back with all of the options, you can choose which ones you want to do.
Right. Then can I just check on the time frame for getting that work back to us?
What are you thinking, Helen? In terms of a time for this report to come back? It just says as soon as practicable, so.
I think we'd need to go back and work out, particularly around the elections.
Would you like us to come back to the community committee, or would you like us to come back to council?
That'd be good. Yep.
Through the community committee, are you
Yep.
happy
No,
with that?
I'd certainly be happy to pick this up.
Council.
So
Well,
we
it'll come
just
to council anyway,
just have to look at the timetable. So
especially with an election.
with the elections coming up.
1st of September for our next meeting.
Right.
Yes, but what's the agenda cut-off date?
I'm not sure.
So personally, like, I want
Be
to get
about
some
2
action
weeks.
on this
Okay,
now,
okay.
not wait another 2
It
months.
says as soon as practicable, and
We could have a late paper.
and Andrew is sufficiently interested in this that he will, if necessary, hold a special chief meeting.
Yep, or otherwise, if there's a timeline that doesn't work because of the elections and therefore it's beneficial for this to come back to council rather than the
Yep.
committee,
Yep.
we can make that decision. But we can have that conversation once we know what the timeline looks like.
Now, I've just thinking it through. Would you like to broaden then that number one, if you want to talk about the healthy food and the champion approach, on
Yeah, the
regulatory
non-regulatory.
and non-regulatory options in your top line?
That was my question, whether
Yep.
that would be broad enough for that. So, as it is,
On that top line,
Yeah, top line.
as
so-
per the memo.
no, just go back to the top line.
In front of options, regulatory and non-regulatory.
Oh,
You could just about copy the text of the memo we've received on this. to
so
include.
Vivian, just on that first line, where it says on options, regulatory and non-regulatory, is that okay with you? Yeah?
And then add the bullet point about taking the champion healthy city approach.
And central government to 1, limit, and 2, prevent, and then 3, looking at adopting a champion approach. Yeah?
Chairman, healthy city approach.
It's number 7 in our memo we've received. We could just about copy that in, actually.
Okay. Vivian's drafting it. It's all good. Glenn, did you have any more questions?
It was just over that, whether that would provide for a more proactive approach with that. Was
Okay.
good enough,
So I've got Ali, Phil, Rath.
Thank you. At the risk of causing more talk about this than we need, fast food is still a concern for me as far as qualification goes. I mean, are we talking about huge global corporates? Are we talking about somewhere that is quick to serve something in high fat and high sugar? I mean, I think that's incredibly unqualified.
So do you want to just put unhealthy fast food outlets? And I appreciate that that does not define it particularly either, but some fast food is...
Well, is it about the speed of the food or about the food itself? Is it fast
the
food
food
or is it
itself.
unhealthy food? You
I think as part of the work we would scope
But I think that
and
needs
define
to be made
that.
clear. So prevent the establishment of, I would say, unhealthy food outlets to cover it. I don't know whether fast food
Okay.
is the issue.
well,
What's
the
healthy
fast food
food?
is the issue.
Exactly, Raph,
Do we have
but
a
I'm just trying to narrow
definition?
it somewhat.
Ali, what they've come in about is fast food. So I think if we just
But
put...
what is fast
no,
food?
but you're going to get that, okay? So I don't think we're going to spend this council meeting defining fast food, but just if we put unhealthy in front of it,
Yep, unhealthy fast.
Well, it's about, the messaging is fast is unhealthy.
we know it doesn't actually define, put a line in the sand.
Drive up and get a bag of apples quickly. I mean.
But in terms of messaging, everyone knows what that means.
Okay, Phil and then Raph.
Could I just ask staff questions around the wording of this to make it positive? And like, for example, including the concept of Christchurch developing a healthy food policy, that we include that term. And also from a wider perspective across the city, not only Linwood, given that the issues there are incredibly sad and serious, but there are implications to the wider city too, so that in fact in the report you will give us information about the number of and density of fast food outlets across the city.
I'm assuming, Phil, that that's what 2 does.
I wondered if in fact though we should be clear about the development of a healthy food policy for our city, that's all, and ask for that.
So I'm assuming
We
that's covered.
will look at that as an
Yeah.
option.
Yes.
The champion does cover that.
Okay, then. Raph?
Yeah, I mean, my question really was around the definition of healthy food, because I'd like you to explain it to me.
that's the work that's going to have to be undertaken. There has to be, we're going to have to do some kind of scoping and look at what's happening overseas. We're going to have to do a little bit, we're going to have to do some research. We're going to have to identify what's worked in other places, come back to you with what has appeared to work, in other situations, and come back to you with a menu of options around how you want to move forward.
Because this is very different to, say, liquor stores, which is basically liquor's liquor. I could see how you could come up with a planning proposal where you could limit the size of food outlets near a school, and that kind of stuff would probably solve the issue. But I think, you're delving into something that's quite unsolvable in terms of defining what healthy food is.
Well, the Ministry of Health does have some guidelines, and they're working with the district health boards on healthy food guidelines, and they are around the usuals of minimising fat, salt and sugar. So that's it at a very basic level.
Basic stuff.
Okay, thank you. If there's no more questions, there is one more.
At the community board, we asked if we could have a copy of the consent that the KFC got, because my understanding is we can actually control drive-throughs through odour and traffic. Has anyone done that? Because obviously the risk is that, within the next 2 months while this comes back, more fast food outlets open in that area.
I'm not sure
which particular consent are you after?
The consent that was granted for the KFC to operate opposite to the school.
In Linwood.
Right.
And what the odour assessment and traffic assessment was on that.
Right. Okay.
And I guess the key question is in terms of it being notified as well.
Can we, is that all the questions, guys? Okay, can I open it up? Thank you very much indeed. Can I open it up for debate? And you've now got the resolution in front of you. Okay, Glenn.
Oh, thank you. I've got a confession, but here I want to use it to make a point. I've lost some weight recently by cutting back on portion size and eating healthy food. Yesterday I had a fall off the wagon moment. Here's the fall off the wagon moment. I'm just going to be honest with you. I spent half an hour on a treadmill, and on my Runkeeper app I burned off over 400 calories. My family then brought home McDonald's for lunch. The chicken and cheeseburger amounted to 392, so that soon overtook the treadmill. The large fries were 398 calories. The large Coke was 223. So I didn't go to the gym again. I never caught up for the rest of the day. This is the sort of stuff we're dealing with. I ran into, at the Weet-Bix Kids Triathlon, a former New Zealand basketballer. We do these things when we give the kids medals at these events. He talked about the obesity problem in South Auckland and the fact that fast food is a lot cheaper and more accessible for a lot of families, based on the fact that fresh fruit and veggies is far more expensive in New Zealand. So I think if the government isn't going to do anything, such as taking GST off fresh fruit and veggies, we need to be proactive. So we've got a lot of reactive stuff up there. I would actually like to see the council further promote the resilience network work that Matt Morris and others are undertaking, but also resource through funding the fruit and veggie co-ops which continue to grow in our city. So the way I look at this is, in the regulatory side of it, there may be some limits, but we have to keep chipping away at that. But we also need to move into the proactive space and do something about this. Obesity is a huge problem in the eastern parts of our city, and I represent one of those areas. We actually need to start promoting the good, healthy stuff. People who eat this stuff, it's a long way back. Those calories, you'd have to spend hours running. I ran really hard on that treadmill to get to 400 in half an hour. So this is what people are up against, and I'm hearing some hums and ha's, but actually it's a really serious problem. It affects brain functioning at schools. I have a brother who's a principal as well. He will tell me about that and support it. So I think we might think it's too hard, but it's not too hard. We just have to keep getting at it and keep doing all that we can.
Okay, any other speakers? Paul, then Andrew, then Yanni.
I'll just be really quick. It's not just a Christchurch problem, it is a New Zealand problem. And I was pretty appalled to find out we're the third worst in the entire world for obesity. So I'm just really glad to see that if we accept this today, that this council takes a lead on it. And we can't do everything, but we can take the lead on it, and I think that's the important part, to take the first step to resolving the issue and doing something about it.
Okay. Thanks, Paul. Andrew?
Yeah, I totally support us taking a leadership role on this. I think it's essential that we do what we're able to do and we be bold in this space. I fully support the points that were made in the deputations, and I actually thank the people that made the deputations for coming along and making those points so clearly. It's been really good to hear everything set out so clearly for us this morning. What we've got here is a harmful combination of unhealthy food, really compelling advertising, and also cynical positioning of these type of outlets in lower socioeconomic areas, on main roads, close to schools and so on. The report requested in this resolution certainly allows us to progress the discussion, and it allows some informed debate that takes into account overseas examples, that allows us to debate more fully the definition of fast food and where we really see the problem lie and so on. I certainly welcome that debate. I welcome that report coming as soon as possible. I'm very supportive of this and urge my colleagues to support it similarly.
Thank you. And just before I ask the next speaker, I should have gotten somebody to move it and second it. Do you want to move Paul, seconded Yanni? Right, thank you. Yanni, you're next speaker as well.
Thank you. Thank you. I too want to acknowledge the work that the people have done in the local community to bring this to our attention, both from the children, the schools, and the local MP. These are people that are standing up for their community, and I think they should be commended for this championing what is a really serious problem, not just in their community, in Christchurch and across the rest of New Zealand and also the world. I think one of the really important things is that this council has a proud tradition of leading New Zealand. Back in the 1970s, just 4 years before Vicky Buck became the youngest councillor ever at age 19, the Maori City Council adopted New Zealand's first building insulation bylaw. That is significant. We have a way of doing things here that is progressive, that actually can champion solutions for the rest of New Zealand, and we should be proud that that is our tradition, but we should also continue to do that as we're being asked to today. So this is difficult, and that point has been, I think, well made by everyone. But actually, it's also very simple. It's whether or not we wish to stand up for our community, for our children, for the health of our city, by taking a more regulatory approach to these sorts of activities. No one's saying ban fast food from our city. Well, what I hear the request saying is actually we have to put in place some regulation that actually makes logic and makes sense. And that is about getting better, healthier outcomes for us. I personally think we could do more today, but I appreciate you want to have a fuller report come back. But I don't think we need to wait a long time before dealing with it. Ironically, you'll remember when we did our district plan review, when we started that process, I saw the Burger King going in the corner of Linwood Ave and Aldrins Road, and I asked us to do something about regulating fast food outlets, and that wasn't met with much support. And now we've got a district plan review that means that we almost have no control over our district plan because we have to go through the ministers. But actually, we should think about controlling odour, controlling signage, controlling traffic impacts. It's our right as a community to set the land use in our city, and I think we should continue down that path. The final point I want to make is that a quote from Fast Food Nation, and I don't know how many people have seen it. It says, "Today's fast food industry is the combination of larger social and economic trends. The low price of a fast food hamburger does not reflect the real cost, and it should. The profits of that fast food chains have been made possible by the losses imposed on the rest of our society. The annual cost of obesity alone is now twice as large as the fast food industry's total revenues." So actually this is a problem that we need to address. We can't wait, we need to act, and we need to act now before other fast food outlets open in areas close to our schools and in communities that have no say in where they can go, but actually know that the damage that is occurring is seen firsthand by the medical professionals and the families associated with those costs. So this would actually save government money, so I urge government to also get on board and support what we're doing today. Thank you.
Thanks, Gianni. David? Did you want to speak?
Thank you. Look, I had a little bit of difficulty with the resolutions here earlier on, but I do generally support the thrust of where we're going, and I'm pleased to see that we're looking at regulatory and non-regulatory options. For me, I think in many respects it is a personal choice whether you frequent these places or not, and as a type 2 diabetic for over 10 years, I've struggled with blood sugars and health issues and with relation to diabetes, and it was probably only about 3 months ago, two or 3 months ago, when I was faced with the prospect of becoming type 1 and a needle, that I've changed my lifestyle quite dramatically. And like Glenn, I've lost a bit of weight. Maybe I'm only sort of quarter of an hour on a treadmill and 50 calories, but that's all good. Haven't had a Coke for probably 8 months, and I avoid carbohydrates like the devil at the moment. But yeah, so I think we're not going to eradicate, and I don't think that's the intention of eradicating fast food outlets, but I do quite like the option of championing better options at these institutions. I go to a number of fast food joints where I can get a healthy salad, and I don't have to have all the junk side of it. So look, I will support this remit today. I am concerned how far we go down the regulatory path in the city and what implications that will have in terms of cost and bylaws and district plan changes, and that's something that we have to weigh up. But I certainly do think that we need to be, as a city, championing better and healthier options, and that is a problem that we need to address.
Okay, thank you. Pauline.
Just very quickly, look, we know the difficulties in actually trying to turn around something that's already here, but I think one of the best things that's come out of this is our decision, which I hope we're all going to support, to champion the healthy city approach, to the extent that we will vote on our choice of food with our wallets. And I think that's where we want to go. So we're not forcing people into anything, but by actually learning about healthy food, reaping the benefit of eating healthy food, and pulling away from that addiction of these fast foods, we will end up voting with our wallets.
Okay, thank you. It looks like it's going to go through almost unanimously, I'm thinking. I just want to reflect on what Jared and Dick said as well, that starting on this road will be hard, but I think we're all aware that the cost of doing nothing will be absolutely extreme. So you realise, of course, that the lollies have now gone. Okay, I'm going to put the vote. It was moved and seconded. I'll put it. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carried unanimously. Right.